Hi, everybody. My name is Nick Sorkish. I also go by Kayleen. I work for GitPOAP, and I am the onboarding lead here at GitPOAP. We are here today with our special guest, Ryan Berckmans, and the rest of the GitPOAP team. We have Kayla. Um, we have Burrs. We got Aldo, Jay, and Tyler. So thanks everybody for being here. We're really stoked to talk to Ryan today. I'm going to pass it off to Colfax to get some logistics and stuff out of the way, and he's going to tell us all about GitPOAP. I am checking with the YouTube. Oh, nope, cannot hear other people. Um, you know what? I think that it might be the fact that I'm using headphones.
All those statements. It looks like it's, I mean, the lag is like about 10 seconds, so it'll take a second for us to figure it out. But we will figure this out and then we'll get to the good content.
Should I, I'll make hi again. I'm just doing this so that you can, test, I guess,
Yes.
whether it works.
Appreciate it, Aldo.
Yeah.
Oh, they can hear me typing.
There you go. Amazing. It's fixed.
Okay, cool.
All right, cool. Nice. Well, sorry everybody for that quick lag, but all good. If any audio or anything drops out, I see Oops is on it, so just let us know. But yeah, thanks for everyone for coming. I'll just start off with a quick high level of what is GitPOAP for those not familiar, and then I'll share some exciting updates that we've been working on. And we actually have a couple cool community initiatives coming up, which I'll share in a second, and then we'll pass it off to hear about 3 cities from Ryan. First of all, so GitPOAP is a platform for recognizing and rewarding contributions to different projects. We're starting with issuing POAPs, and we've actually built an integration of POAP issuance into GitHub. So you can issue and get rewarded POAPs for contributions to open source projects. We look at this as a puzzle piece in sort of like the ecosystem of decentralized reputation and also just like proper attribution to folks for the work that they're doing. And it can tie into various things like public goods funding, possibly even like DAO governance, and identifying people that should, have priority access to a conference or something like that, and many other exciting use cases. If you're not already and you'd like to join, swing over to our Discord, which is at gitpoap.io/Discord. And you'll be able to join our Discord there, and you'll see some more information and a bunch of other stuff. Without further ado, I'll jump into a few updates. There's been a couple cool integrations that launched in the last couple weeks. One I want to highlight, a big congratulations actually to the Missouri team, Missouri.xyz, M-A-Z-U-R-Y, that's how you spell that one, for integrating a lot of new credentials into their application. Missouri is kind of like you can think of it as like a LinkedIn for Web3. You have profiles based on your on-chain data, and they use the platform as a way to basically like find talent and sort of like showcase your contributions and things like that. They recently actually just launched a view to share a bunch of different credentials, one of which is GitPOAPs in its own tab. They already had POAPs integrated, and they have a bunch more like Kudos, as well as 101.xyz and Build Space, and I believe a few others. So excited to work with that team. It was a lot of fun. Wojtek over at Missouri is a great person to work with. So excited to see GitPOAPs there on people's Missouri profiles. You can also search by them, and it's a great way for people to find collaborators. Another thing I want to highlight that I'm particularly excited about is on the POAP mobile app, you can now filter by GitPOAPs. And so let's see if I can do a quick demo here. It's going to be hard to show on screen. But yeah, if you're using a POAP mobile app, you can actually view anybody's POAP profile. And if you go to the filter section, you can filter by GitPOAP, so you can see those. So that was another exciting thing. Fun working with the POAP team on that. So thanks to those folks for putting in that effort. Another exciting thing I want to announce is we are good friends and now partnering with the folks over at Matchbox DAO. Matchbox DAO is a group. It's basically a DAO focused on helping developers build games and other tools in the StarkNet ecosystem. And it's basically this amazing community of developers. They host a lot of hackathons, and they have a lot of like infrastructure tooling for games on StarkNet. And I think it's one good example of like a community that we want to foster and sort of help more people get involved in and attributed for their work. They have an ongoing hackathon right now that we're just announcing right now, actually, that we're going to be awarding GitPOAPs to the participants and the winners of. And so the hackathon's already started. It started a couple days ago. But if you're interested in participating, swing on over to their Twitter. I believe it's at MatchboxDAO, and you'll be able to find some more information on that. We have some other exciting things coming up in the works with them. They have some ideas for different applications that they think would be valuable built on top of POAP, or on top of POAP and GitPOAP, to showcase the work that people have been doing. So if you're interested in getting involved in any of that, feel free to reach out to me. You can find me in the GitPOAP Discord, and I can plug you in with, there's a couple different folks that are going to start building more applications on top of GitPOAP. So just shoot me a DM. I'm Colfax on the GitPOAP Discord. There was another exciting request that actually came in today for a GitPOAP visualization around essentially building like a front end component that a project maintainer like Ryan here, for example, can actually take and drop into, say, his README or into a website to highlight all the contributors that hold his GitPOAP. And so different people are building out different components like that. This is a cool one that I'd love to see built by the community. And if it doesn't, maybe I'll actually end up building it myself, because it'll give you a really cool way to highlight contributors. So if you're interested in working on something like that too, feel free to reach out, or even just feel free to start building and then just drop your progress into our Discord. And the last couple things I wanted to mention is the GitPOAP team is going to be at DevCon next week. I think most of us are arriving on Saturday. And so if you want to hang out with us, drop into our Discord. We'll post some information about where we're going to be hanging out. We may do an event, we may not. I'll keep you guys posted. And something super cool that I want to share. So we're going to have some pretty awesome swag. We'll have some hats. We'll have some pretty dope shirts. And even cooler, we are going to be giving out a special gift to any GitPOAP holder that we meet. I don't know if you guys are familiar yet, but there are these IYK cards that we built in partnership with IYK. There are many existing ones like for POAP, so these are the same. And essentially what these cards are, is there an ability for you to pass out a POAP in person. So many people are actually using these to pass out a personal POAP. So I've made a You've Met Colfax at DevCon POAP, which you'll see the design for once I land at DevCon. But what we're going to be doing is we produced a couple hundred of these cards, and we are going to be giving them out to anybody who has a GitPOAP, who holds a GitPOAP, who's been contributing to open source. We'll also be selling them to folks if you don't have any GitPOAPs, if you're still interested, so you'll be able to get one from us. But yeah, find us at DevCon, especially if you hold a GitPOAP, and we'll give you one of these awesome cards and a whole bunch of other swag. So that is just about it for the announcements from my end. I am going to pass it off to Nick Sorokish, who is our fearless OBS leader, as well as our host of the call. And she is going to talk to Ryan about some really awesome stuff. So I'm not going to leak any too many details, but I will, pass it back off to you, Nick Sorokish.
Cool. So Ryan, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into Ethereum? You're muted.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on the call today. I've been active in the Ethereum community on a largely full-time or overtime basis for about 4 or 5 years now. I began following crypto. I was in computer science school when Bitcoin launched, and as a result, I had the benefit of always knowing it was an innovation right from the very start. But I didn't buy a ton of Bitcoin back then, nor did I invest in Ethereum at the crowd sale, although I sort of watched the crowd sale screencast. And then in 2017, I was, still following along, very, very enthused. And I had a very fortunate experience where one of my colleagues at my role at the time encouraged me to think like an investor. And he said to me, Ryan, it's time to think of yourself like an investor. Like, what are you doing? And that flipped a light switch in my mind. And since then, I've been in Ethereum in a big way. And that's contributed to my ability to do, for the last few years, volunteer work in the community. I write threads. I occasionally speak on podcasts. And most recently, I've been cultivating an interest in the idea of Web3 native e-commerce. I first began developing an interest in that about a year and a half ago, and it sort of culminated into the project that we'll talk about today, 3 cities, as well as some views on the future of Web3 e-commerce in Ethereum. My other interests include the flippening, credible neutrality, and like generally the good vibes we have going on in our community.
Yeah, the good vibes is a huge reason why I'm here. People really care about being in this industry, and they really care about building Ethereum as a public good, which is what brings me here. I'm curious, when you were doing your CS degree and were hearing about Bitcoin, was there an overall positive sentiment about Bitcoin that you were hearing, or was it really not talked about?
Oh, it was absolutely positive among the very small niche audience that had even cursory awareness of it. It was so new back then. There was no political factors. There was no understanding of the high cost of proof of work, both in terms of the money and energy impact, and just wastefulness. It was like the true good old days. So we were just focused on the fact that you could make a network of computers that achieved some overall purpose despite a proportion of them being incompetent or malicious, and we thought that was sort of really cool. But of course, Bitcoin couldn't really do anything. There were no applications, so that limited the effect of my interest in terms of I didn't get involved in the Bitcoin industry. I was just such as it existed back then. I was just an enthusiast, a light enthusiast even. We did a bit of mining, threw away the wallets, that kind of thing.
It's such a double-edged sword to be involved or aware that early, because I know I was playing around with Bitcoin and I bought 100 of it and then didn't even I bought it and then didn't keep it. And it really makes you kick yourself harder having been involved at all.
Sure. I got started in the days when there were faucets giving out 5 Bitcoin a pop, so it was early days.
Nice. Yeah. So what got you interested in Web3 commerce or web commerce?
So I come by it quite honestly. I started my software career, like so many, with a great passion for video games and game development. And I was able to work in games for a while. I worked at a AAA game developer. And then there came a crucial point in my career during school where I was offered a role either on Mass Effect 2, the famous Mass Effect video game. I could have been an intern on that, or I could be an intern at Amazon. And I chose Amazon, and sort of for me, the rest is history on the gaming side. I did eventually do a whole lot more work in virtual worlds and MMORPGs on an amateur basis, and that's informed some of my views and knowledge on the new metaverse trend that's related to 3 cities, if not Web3 commerce in general. And so when I went to Amazon, I kind of cut my teeth on e-commerce, and then I did some more e-commerce related startups, and my traditional e-commerce experience culminated with an important role in a New York fintech company that it was a B2B to C company that helped customers borrow money right when they were going to check out with the couch. It was a competitor to Affirm, Max Levchin, the PayPal guy's company. So if you were going to buy a couch, you could pay $1,200 now or $100 a month, over however many months. And through this role, a great sense of the practical issues and value of e-commerce infrastructure and connecting with customers, as well as I've always been a fairly product-minded engineer. I studied economics in school, a lot of economics after school in the years since. And it just so happened that when you sort of took all these interests and passions and learning, what really came out of it was just my belief that Web3 extends the market, that Web3 will ultimately be just a tremendous force for building new economic connections globally, including with many types of customers today that are disadvantaged in some way in terms of access or exploitation, that kinds of things.
I'm curious, how do you see that increasing access?
Well, one example might be that I was able to go to school in part because my parents saved money, and that money ran out towards the end of school, and I was able to get student loans. So I had sort of two layers of privilege. If we were to look at a promising student with access to a local university in a developing country, what is the appetite for financing that education? And this may seem far-fetched today, but there's really no reason why there couldn't be a boutique firm specializing in sub-Saharan engineering student loans, and that firm could be out of Japan or out of the Midwest US, and their ability to make economic connections with, for example, young African students who are seeking to be engineers, and like that's limited today by the inherently domestic and legalistic structure of today's markets, where if you want to loan someone money or track that loan or connect with their identity and who they are and why they're doing what they're doing, there's just so much friction there. There's legal friction, technological friction, and I think we all see a future where in Web3, those barriers begin to break down. And, here's my ZK proof of personhood, my proof that I'm an 18-year-old student with the following background, attestations from schools and students, providing my on-chain application for, a university student loan. Then that loan's actually remitted and managed through the chain. And I think when you take this sort of line item example of student loans on a global basis, this could really apply to almost every market in the world. So I'm very, very bullish on the long-term potential of Web3 to reshape the global economy, and especially to make existing economic connections in markets more fair, efficient, level playing fields, removing intermediaries. And my personal greatest excitement is around forming new economic connections with where those connections, it didn't make sense for those connections to exist today because there's some kind of friction where the totality of monetary and non-monetary transaction costs have prevented that connection from existing at all. Where, I might say I'm someone who's seeking like a phone a friend model. I would like, call it a therapist, call it a life coach. I want to have a conversation with someone. In theory, there is some like really amazing grandma with incredible life experience, and she's sitting in a rocking chair in some country somewhere, and there's not that infrastructure to connect me so I can pay her $5 an hour to give me life advice. I see those kinds of informal, what seem to be informal economic connections as being a kind of global grassroots opportunity to build new markets and create new earning opportunities for all kinds of folks.
Just grabbing onto one of the things that you said, I like dream of a time. So people have started charging for POAPs as a method of spam resistance. And I dream of a time where we can have ZK proofs to be like, I live in a country where the average wage is this. I shouldn't have to pay X amount of dollars for this POAP. Whereas somebody who lives in a country that makes the average is like $80,000, they should be able to afford this. And so that would like facilitate a more fair way of distributing POAPs or things like that. I'm curious, what is 3 Cities?
3 Cities is my vehicle to take some baby steps into this, what I see as a coming huge wave of Web3 e-commerce. And it's a startup with an open source component. So I sort of maintain a private fork that I'm building on and iterating on, and I intend to merge some functionality into the public repo and provide that as a public good, as well as the actual deployment of 3 Cities, kind of the canonical deployment, will be offered on a kind of like a free network basis, where I hope to make money eventually in the classic ways of, a healthy token, Web3 native advertising space, things, potentially eventually long tail fees for wealthy customers. It's tough to say, but primarily be offered as a free service with an open source component. And I think when starting something new, it's important to start in a very focused manner that will provide an immediate benefit. So I've sort of come up with a list of areas that I think are promising areas of exploration to discover the initial focus for 3 Cities. So I'm happy to get into those.
Nice. Yeah, I saw that you were calling it a research project. What stage of development would you say that it's in right now?
Very early. So it's very much in the discovery stage. I'm focused on making, a minimum viable product and code base such that when I do customer development, when I go to folks in the community that I think there's this relevant, maybe a relevant value proposition for, and I'll have, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 value propositions that I'm kicking the tires on. I want to be welcome in these conversations. I think, I've been a threader for a living for some years, and you go to someone with an idea and it's just not very tangible, I think you're more welcome and more useful when you can go to someone and say, hey, I have this idea for this thing that would be helpful, and look, it already works in a basic initial way. So that's what I'm focused on today. And the initial 3 Cities build today is about providing a way to pay somebody that hides the specific L2s you're using. So I'm of the belief that our amazing ecosystem of L2s, which has different levels of decentralization and progress and sometimes different capabilities. From the builder perspective, from the perspective of the L2s itself, as well as the perspective of serious companies or DAOs that are looking to pick, one or more L2s to invest in, I'm not suggesting that L2s are all the same. Far from it. Yet, when we look at the other side of the table of the customer, and especially the mass market customer, they're not necessarily going to be able to tell if they have a balance of 7 USDC on Arbitrum or on Starknet or Optimism or ZK Sync or the many to come. And so the first product feature of 3 Cities is you can send someone a checkout link, like a Stripe checkout link, where you say, hey, can you pay me $5 for dinner? And I get that link, I click on it, and it's a private decentralized link. The checkout details describing the request are stored in the link itself. So there's no server. It's true serverless, not like fake Cloud Function serverless. And then when I connect my wallet as the buyer, as the payer who's going to transfer that money, 3 Cities today will automatically detect which tokens you have on which L2s, and it performs that matching problem of, hey, I paid for dinner with my credit card. I'm trying to split this check of $100. You were one of the 4 people. I sent you a link for a $25 payment, much like a Venmo request. So I'm good with USDC, DAI, Arbitrum, Optimism, or any L2. But, I don't really like Tether. I'm not a Tether person. So I'm going to go ahead and disable Tether in my permitted stables. And then I send you that link and you pick it up and it says, hey, Ryan wants you to pay $25 for dinner on Arbitrum, Optimism, etc. And you can pay USDC or DAI And that's kind of like the advanced details. I think in the mass market version of this, it just says, hey, pay $25 for dinner, and then the details are hidden. And then when you connect your wallet, it then performs again that matching problem where maybe I don't actually use Optimism, I only use Arbitrum, or maybe I only use DAI, or I only use USDC. And Three Cities is going to figure out how we can actually form that economic connection. In this case, we're paying for dinner, but it could be for any service or good. And then Three Cities provides a one-click experience where I just click to pay, and then it figures out that the actual payment should construct a transaction of sending 25 USDC on Arbitrum to the recipient. And that's the initial feature in Three Cities.
The ease of use is so important in this ecosystem because this is going to be a success when people don't have to choose whether they're paying on Optimism or Arbitrum, or when they don't even know what that is. They're just saying, hey, I'm just paying you. I don't even know what the back end looks like. I can't
Absolutely.
wait.
And I think, pardon me.
I can't wait for that.
Oh, it's going to be great. And I think one of the ironies and paradoxes and potential, I want to use the word trap for the Ethereum community is that my view is that the reason that it's okay to abstract over L2s, the reason it's okay to create a payment tool or a social marketplace, because that's where Three Cities is headed. The reason it's okay to do that on Ethereum for all of our L2s, where you're hiding which L2 they're using, is because fundamentally all L2s are headed in the same direction, which is decentralized, inheriting security from Ethereum. And I believe a crucial component will be that the cross L2 relationships, the cross-chain bridging between L2s, will end up being more performant, more secure, more featureful, and more valuable because they're all on Ethereum on the same zone of sovereignty. And so while I am focused on abstracting over the L2s to make it so you just pay $25 and it figures it out under the hood, I think there's a potential competitive trap where communities and other alt L1s that are largely centralized that do not really have our commitment to credible neutrality and don't appreciate kind of our attempt to make a level playing field for everyone. They're trying to drive a similar meme that I think to a mass market audience appears very similar, but in reality, it's very different. They're trying to suggest that it doesn't matter what chain you're on. Well, there's a world of difference between it not mattering which chain you're on, which L1 you're on, versus it not mattering which L2 you're on, because they're all on the same decentralized L1. So I think that distinction is going to be a really challenging needle for us to thread in the coming years as mass market adoption explodes. And Ethereum's competitors, all of our competitors, are trying to drive the meme that it doesn't matter if you're on Ethereum or on this other chain, it's all the same. I don't think it's all the same at all. So there's a balance there we have to strike where, okay, use whichever L2 you want, but don't use whichever chain you want. Use the decentralized chain for the following reasons.
Yeah. So question for you and Three Cities. If you had someone come in and dedicate their time to helping with Three Cities, what would that ideally look like? What would you like to see someone come in and do?
So one item here is that Three Cities was built on DApp tools, UseDApp, and UseDApp's good, and it has features that I like, but I'm not sure if it's...
Explain real quick, what is UseDApp?
UseDApp is a TypeScript library that provides off-chain functionality that Web3 apps and developers can use to avoid reinventing the wheel and benefit from best practices and secure middleware code. It's kind of like jQuery for Ethereum Web3. jQuery is sort of a famous library. So I guess this reference makes me a crypto boomer, which I have to live with. But UseDApp's competitor, WagMe, we are going to make it acronym, is I think a library that's done a better job. And for that reason, Rainbow, our wonderful wallet, has decided to build their Rainbow Kit wallet connector on top of the WAGMI library. So Rainbow Kit's this fantastic library. It's like the best way to connect your wallet to a website, in my view. And so 3 Cities today does not use Rainbow Kit, does not use WAGMI, and I would like it to change to do that. So I think that's a pretty big, major surgery to the existing code base.
That's awesome. Yeah, we are like actively thinking right now how to get people interested in, or not interested, like over the barrier to help with projects, because there are a lot of people who are building the skills to help with projects and who have the skills, and a lot of like Web 2 developers who are coming over to Web 3 and just aren't really sure where to throw their skills down. And so like I know people have like applied to jobs and eventually just like take whatever is given to them, where like a lot of people don't know in Web3 that once you start working on something, most people working in the ecosystem just made themselves invaluable. And that is how they work here, because they started building something and somebody decided that they couldn't live without it, and they were like, I'll keep paying you to work on this thing. I actually I had a conversation the other day with someone on Reddit who I loved this conversation. I took a quote of what they said. They said, I'm looking to contribute to any community-led project. I can build smart contracts, NFTs, soulbound tokens, etc., and build front ends for them. The first steps of finding a suitable project and then really starting to work on something are a big mental barrier. So whatever you can do to lower that barrier is probably a great help to many, which is exactly where we want to be. And like knowing what people want in their projects, like you just outlined with 3 Cities, is so helpful, because it helps, I think, GitPOAP fill a niche that we really want to fill, which is connecting these developers to these projects. Because it's like when you're oversatiated with information, you end up just like being stagnant. And so I don't know, we are trying to drive the conversation on exactly where we can work on GitPOAP's development to fill that niche.
I love that. And I know that for 3 Cities, the 3 Cities Open repository, I have a task ahead of me, which is to make it a much nicer repository. I think if you're a developer, you spend a lot of time on GitHub, you get a sense that there is a very real repository hygiene or repository welcomeness aspect. And I don't think the current repository is the most welcome to new contributors. So that's my task. I need to add some open issues and tag them with new contributor. And I think I need to update the README to speak a little bit more about next steps and how you might help, as well as pardon me, but the demo link in the repo is broken right now. I need to migrate the live site to a new IPFS host gateway. And so there's some hygiene items I had to do there. That being said, if a community member or an aspiring community member is interested in e-commerce, please absolutely reach out on Twitter. And I would love to just hear about your interest in e-commerce. And if you just want to get coding, I could come up with a small task for you. To the point about contributors becoming employees, I mean, my path for 3 Cities is to raise money and build a team. So I think folks who are interested in e-commerce and want to have that conversation would absolutely be front of the line in future team building.
Yeah, thanks. I think that I like what you said about like creating issues and just like making the repository more welcoming, but that also is something that people can work on. Like if they are very familiar with a project but don't code, they could come in and make those changes to be able to help contributors who do know how to code come in and figure out exactly what they need to do.
I love that. That's wonderful. And if anyone wishes to help our repository in that regard, please, I would absolutely welcome that with open arms. And in that vein, it reminds me of, there's this famous software book, The Mythical Man Month. And in that book, they say many things, but one of the things is that they describe this really weird method for software development that would seem totally foreign to us today, which is like a surgery team where there's one person who is sort of hands-on keyboard writing code, and the primary developer who might write and architect 80% of the code in a given project. But then this sort of strange old book recommends a handful of almost like complementary team members that provide other functions, like making sure the tooling for the project is excellent, and other supporting functions of that nature. So in that kind of paradigm, I believe that every project needs at least a few different kinds of engineers, and sometimes all of these kinds might occur in one person, one pair of hands, but I certainly don't have them all. So I think one important competency that might be the most overlooked is a product engineer, and this is an engineer who is actually thinking about why the product is useful, who's using it, why they're using it, has very strong opinions on what should be built next for the business case. Some startups have no product engineers. The engineers are purely technical, and they punt all product related matters to the product department. And I think they're much worse off for that, which is not to denigrate product departments in general. So I'm the Three Cities product engineer. So what's kind of missing in my view? I think a TypeScript expert who really knows the latest and greatest in repository structuring, meta tools like Yarn and Lerna and what to do there. I think a TypeScript software expert who can go in and isn't necessarily the tools and libraries person, but can really improve code quality, algorithms, internal APIs, really like a computer science nerd, or just someone who writes a lot of code and has views on that. I think an engineer who's focused on developer hygiene, we already mentioned that. And I think someone with an eye also for DevOps in the release process and testing, who can do things like set up continuous integration pipelines and various kinds of time savers and checks and balances. So all those kinds of contributions would be greatly welcome to Three Cities. And if you're trying to get started with other projects, maybe consider how that project might be weak in one of the following areas, and just sort of step up and make a pull request or open an issue suggesting something and see if there's appetite. So again, those areas would be stuff like general code quality, correct use of libraries and repo configuration, developer hygiene, testing, DevOps, continuous integration, and product engineering. Why the repo is serving its customers well. So when you look to get started in Web3 open source, even though you're an engineer, I think sometimes we have a tendency to put all engineers in the same bucket, but there's really multiple competencies going on. So you might consider which of those resonates with you and which of those is lacking in your favorite project you aspire to work for.
Nice. I'm going to pass it off real quick and see if, does anybody else from the team have any questions for Ryan?
There's a question actually from YouTube. Hey there, oops. A friend of mine asked, does Ryan have a POAP they've received that is an extra super duper most special in their collection POAP? Ryan, do you have an answer for that one?
I do. In my OpenSea profile, I have a Topaz testnet from the Prismatic Labs Beacon Chain Topaz testnet launch. So at the time the Beacon Chain was coming together, I sort of took part and ran some nodes and got involved, and that's not something I've done as much of since, but that was a very special memory for me. And the Beacon Chain Genesis was a huge event and a big success, and just good vibes, fond memories. So I really like that POAP.
That sounds like an awesome one. That was before my time, unfortunately, but I know a couple people that have that one. That's pretty exciting.
Cool.
Cool. I think that just about does it for questions. Nix, did you have any other questions before I said a few words?
No, I have no more questions.
Awesome. Well, we have a couple more things before we close up, but I just wanted to highlight like how excited I am that Ryan is here talking about 3 cities. Like, I think there's really an opportunity to highlight projects that are working on interesting initiatives and looking for contributors, as well as provide a space for prospective contributors to come where the barrier is low and like the walls are down, and we can just have a conversation and learn about a project and learn how you can get involved. I remember when I was originally getting involved in like the Ethereum and Web3 ecosystem, I didn't really know where to start. And I remember I found this community called the ETH Staker community, and they would always talk about like, oh, how can we make staking easier and better? And next thing you know, I started to contribute to some open source projects, and yeah, one thing leads to another, and then you really become a member of the ecosystem. So I think with GitPOAP, like I'm excited that we're giving attribution to developers through the issuance of POAPs. And if you do contribute to 3 cities, you will get a POAP for it, a GitPOAP. And I'm excited to like extend that even one step further with this series of community calls, which we're going to continue to do. Our next one's probably going to be in about a month. But given the amount of interest we've gotten from projects to come on these, we might actually increase the frequency a little bit. And so, yeah, very open to feedback, both from contributors and from projects about how we can better serve the community to sort of create this space for projects and contributors to come to meet together. So Ryan, thanks so much for coming and sharing 3 cities. It was so cool to learn a bunch more about what you're working on and what the next steps are.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Cool. Before we close things up, I'll pass it back off to Nix to talk about a few things, including the POAP that we'll actually be distributing for this call.
So the first thing that we're going to do is we want everybody to go over to the GitPOAP Discord and join the Join Guild channel. And one thing I'm going to talk about is these POAPs are going to cost $5. And I know that I just talked about how it's not great for people in countries where the annual wage is not as high as people in more developed countries. But we do fight spam for farmers for every single POAP drop that we do. Like our first community call, we had 60 people there, and I think we had 230 POAPs claimed, which doesn't seem fair to the actual people who were there.
So in about like 5 minutes as well.
Yeah, 5 minutes. It sold out in like and we charged $1 for those ones, and so clearly farmers are willing to pay $1. We're hoping that they're not willing to pay $5. But we wanted to let you know where these funds are going, and we have 3 trains of thoughts right now on where these funds are going. And the first idea is we would like to start a program where we sponsor a new developer, or a developer transferring from Web 2 to Web 3 to go to a conference. Meaning we would cover their ticket and walk them around the conference, help them get acquainted with people, because conferences really are the place where you build the best relationships to get involved in the community. Our second idea is that we want to set an example on how GitPOAPs can be used, and one of the things you can do with a GitPOAP is stream funds. And so we are working with, we're talking to the Superfluid team right now, and with Superfluid you can stream funds to anybody holding a certain POAP. And so we would like to stream funds to contributors of certain projects, maybe GitPOAP, to incentivize people to contribute to these projects and then get paid a little bit for it. Our third idea is to go to a Gitcoin matching pool, go to the Gitcoin matching pool. So if you guys have any opinions on where these funds should go, we are open to that. I'm going to pass it off to Burrs, and she will explain how to get the POAP. Burrs, you're muted. I don't know if you're talking.
Sorry about that. Okay, so now I'm currently showing the Join Guild channel in the GitPOAP Discord. So this is under the General tab. So once again, the way that you can join the Discord is by going to gitpoap.io/Discord. You'll be able to join here. And so I'll give you about like 3 or 4 minutes before I do this, but I will also show this part. But essentially, I will be sending a link through Guild that will come, like basically a claim GitPOAP link will show up here by the guild.xyz bot. And you'll have the option of paying either 5 DAI on Ethereum or an equivalent of $5 of Ethereum or $5 Ether on Ethereum, which is about 0.0037 ETH. You can also pay on Polygon, so you could either pay 5 DAI on Polygon or 6 Matic. So I'll distribute the link, let's say at 12:52. So I'll give everyone a little bit of time, just so we can beat all the farmers, you know.
Awesome.
Hopefully.
Thanks, Anna. While we're waiting just a few minutes for people to join the guild, I'll expand just a little bit more on some of the initiatives that we're thinking to do with this money. Like, charging for POAPs or community calls is not how we want. Like, it's not an objective for like GitPOAP to make money. And so we really want to use these funds to, support the community in all these different ways that Kayleen mentioned. And particularly the last one, there's an ongoing conversation about how Gitcoin matching rounds can further help even more strongly, like open source projects, like 3 Cities, for example, or other projects that are working on getting started. And so there was some active conversation about having actually like a matching pool specifically only for like open source public goods in an upcoming Gitcoin round. And we're participating in that conversation with them. And I don't know, like the amount of funds that we would gather from distributing this particular community called POAP is not going to be huge. But different ways that we can think about like channeling funds to public goods like this is a very active conversation in the Gitcoin community and our community and many others. So if anybody's interested in taking part in that community, or if you have funds that you'd like to channel to public goods, please do reach out. You can find me again on our Discord, gitpoap.io/Discord, Colfax, I'm right at the top. So just please reach out and join the conversation. We're really excited to support the building of public goods in so many different ways. So.
Cool. 51.
About 20 more seconds, and I think Anna's going to drop the link in the chat.
Yes. So, I'm gonna send it right now. It'll probably take a little bit of time for the Discord bot to actually send it, but maybe not. So,
and
hold your horses.
Don't.
Oh, it's there.
There we go. Don't worry if you're unwilling to pay for this POAP. That is fine. This is just a souvenir, and people should not be farming this anyway because it's just a POAP.
Yeah, this is a nice souvenir for joining the call. And we're going to continue to, let's see, I'm trying to in my POAP as I do it. Continue to iterate on how we distribute these so we can have it be as fair as possible to the people that show up to these calls.
And yes, so just as one quick explanation, once you press the claim POAP button, if you're in part of Guild, you'll be able to click on this join GitPOAP community call link, and this will basically send you back to Guild, and you'll be able to complete the transaction and get your minting link.
Silence while everybody goes and collects theirs.
Yes.
While people are doing that, the last community call, we actually donated our funds from the POAP to a good friend of ours and a good friend of the GitPOAP community and the Ethereum community, Left Terrace. And we didn't donate to him. We donated to a cause he was raising funds for, which is fighting congenital heart disease. And he raised those funds in preparation for running the Berlin Marathon, which he ran a couple weeks ago. And he ran a PR during the marathon, which was pretty exciting to hear. So those funds did get delivered to the cause, and he was very grateful. And so we'll keep you posted on where these funds end up going as we sort of develop more ideas around these concepts. Yay, I think I got my POAP.
And I don't want to guarantee anything, but it might be kind of cool if we did a POAP vote with all of the community call number 2 POAP holders to see which of those 3 proposals.
Oh, that would be a good idea. A great idea.
That's a cool idea. Yeah.
I love that.
Let's follow up on that. We'll discuss and see what makes sense, but I think that's a really good idea.
Cool. Thanks for coming, Ryan. Thanks for the rest of the GitPOAP team for being here. I am going to stop the stream now, and I hope everybody had a good time here. And if you have any issues or any troubles, drop in the GitPOAP Discord. We have a When POAP channel that if you have POAP issues, you can go to the When POAP channel.
Sounds good. Thanks for hosting, Nix. And everybody stay tuned on our Twitter. So we're at GitPOAP on Twitter for details on our next community call. And thanks again for coming, Ryan.
Thanks for having me. Have a good day.
Thanks, Ryan.